fans often suffer from a phenomenon that I like to call the weekend wonder, where we have no objective and we have no particular thing we want to go shoot, we just want to see something. Like a gambling addiction, we place our faith in the railroad and hopes we come out satisfied with what we got. It is Saturday, June 22nd, 2024. An eastbound CSX train I-158 is coming out of North Baltimore, Ohio, heading for Baltimore, Maryland. Like usual, he carries his assortment of containers and auto racks. I have no particular reason why I'm here, other than the fact I just wanted to come up here and get away for the day. However, by the end of this video, you will see I came out of this very satisfied. The next train through the plant is Red Hot Norfolk Southern Train 28N. Formerly NS Train 218, it carries UPS traffic and other high-priority shipments from Chicago to Charlotte, North Carolina. Although this train is top dog on the Norfolk Southern line, CSX controls the interlocking, and they don't care. Right behind the 28N was another NS eastbound, train 148. This train comes out of Kansas City, Missouri, and is destined for the huge classification yard in Bellevue. Rushing back over to the B&O side, the radio lit up with a westbound. Never got the train ID for this guy, but I'm making a guess it was I-115 heading for Chicago. Shooting handheld, the angle came out very terrible, but it was the best I could do. After this train, I rushed back over to the C&O and Nickel Plate Diamond for what I thought would be a southbound on the C&O. Instead, this happened. The CSX dispatcher in Jacksonville decided to let Norfolk Southern train L71 come out first. Of note was the unrebuilt GP60 that was leading the train. These 4,000 horsepower units were the 4-axle version of EMD's famous SD60. and they didn't have much success as they were considered to be rough riders. 40 years later, though, you can still find unrebuilt GP60s chugging about on both the Norfolk Southern and the Union Pacific. This would be the train of the day, at least for me anyways. Still waiting on that southbound, a westbound train appears on the B&O side. Check out the second unit. CSX's New York Central Heritage Unit has made an appearance on this westbound M367. Ever since these units have come out of the paint booth, they have been the subject of extreme FOMR controversy. For me, I really don't care that much, as it's just a Gevo with some different paint on it, but the memes are the memes. The southbound on the C&O is finally turned loose. It turns out to be a unit grain train coming out of somewhere in Michigan with loads. Trains running straight southbound out of Toledo toward Columbus is not that common of an occurrence at Fostoria. When it does happen, it's always worth shooting. Only moments later, another NS eastbound mixed freight is lined through the interlocking. I didn't get the train symbol for this guy, but I believe it was eastbound train 304 coming out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Only a few years ago, this line used to not be very active, getting anywhere from 10 to 15 trains a day. Since 2022, however, the traffic on this line has substantially increased with through freights out of Kansas City, Chicago, and Elkhart running over this way, making the count anywhere from 25 to 35 movements in a day. Moving back down to the B&O, now the CSX Willard sub, we set up for what I thought would be 3 consecutive eastbound movements. The first of the eastbounds is train M368, the sister to the M367 we saw earlier with the New York Central Heritage Unit. This train is normally extremely long, and today is no different. A Norfolk Southern westbound train surprises me, having snuck up to the diamond. I jump over to the nickel plate for the catch. It is westbound train 11E, loaded auto racks. One unit is all they need to get this train to where it's going. However, I have sometimes seen it run with 2 units. After the NS, the 2 eastbound signals on the Willard sub lit up. One of them for a movement turning the corner going north, the other one going straight east. The train taking the corner going north is I-150, having just originated in North Baltimore 14 miles west of here. He is destined for Detroit. Again, the camera is at a really bad angle, but it's where I was when the train got there and didn't have time to correct it. Red hot eastbound train IO10 comes up behind the I-150 and goes around him. Normally he blows through here without a problem, but due to some PTC issues, he nearly slows down to a complete stop. The term red hot train normally refers to the fact of a train that is run for high priority shippers, such as UPS. IO10 is the hottest train through here during daylight hours, and whenever it gets to the interlocking, all traffic is halted to make sure it gets through fine. Rumor is this train has cost railroaders their jobs for delays. As IO10 was leaving the scene, I was just about ready to go get myself some Wendy's when I heard the NS radio channel light up with an 098 train number. That train number usually indicates some kind of special movement, and I waited to see what it was. O98 turned out to be a special movement of toxic waste. The lead locomotive caught my eye. It's the former Boy Scout tribute unit for the Union Pacific. Returning from lunch, the way was cleared for a westbound M565 on the B&O. M565 and M566 are Selkirk, New York to Chicago trains, but instead of going to Clearing Yard, they go to CSX's Bar Yard. A meet is set up to take place on the diamond between eastbound train I-166 and westbound train M567 getting ready to take the corner north to head toward Detroit. You can see why I preferred to shoot the I-166. This is the CPKC haulage rights train on this line. In Chicago, the CPKC hands the train off to the CSX, and they run it to Buffalo, New York, where it is once again handed back over to the CPKC for the rest of the way to Montreal. Just over a year ago, the Canadian Pacific Railroad and the Kansas City Southern Railroad merged to create the CPKC. There has not been a major repainting program implemented yet, and so very colorful lash-ups can be seen on this train quite often. Today is no different, but what is on the bottom of this train is what catches my eye. A set of brand new auto racks brings up the rear of the train. These appear to be higher than standard auto racks, but I didn't get a good look. After about 20 minutes of waiting, here comes eastbound train B158, coke empties heading back toward Pennsylvania. Of note is the leader, a rebuilt flared radiator SD70 Mac. CSX had over 200 SD70s on its roster, a majority of which had flared radiators. As a part of the rebuild program for these engines, they kept them, making them rather interesting units whenever seen. The rebuild program is steadily moving forward, and they are becoming more and more common every day. Moving over to the parking lot of the old B&O depot, we set up for another eastbound train. Between 1990 and 2004, the depot at Fostoria was an Amtrak depot. The city was served by Amtrak trains 40 and 41, the Broadway Limited, and later the Three Rivers. 20 years later, after the Three Rivers was discontinued, the depot is now a maintenance of way base for CSX. The rumor is the people who own and operate the Fostoria Rail Park intend to save the depot. As for how that's gonna pan out, I'm not really sure. The westbound version of train I-150, train I-151, makes its daily appearance at Fostoria, only having 14 more miles to go before he reaches his destination at North Baltimore. 150 and 151 only travel about 100 miles in either direction, meaning they are seen here in regularly good daylight. Standing on what was the passenger platform of the depot, train M560 breezes by heading for Selkirk, New York. M560 comes out of Cincinnati and is normally one of those huge trains, but today it's not. Norfolk Southern Train 303 has pulled up, waiting for permission to CSX to get him across. 303 today has all Canadian Pacific power and a very nice mix of engines. The third locomotive, a CP60 ACU rebuild, was dead in tow, and it appeared to be severely damaged from some kind of accident. I asked around about this and I couldn't figure out what happened, so I'll leave that up to speculation. The Norfolk Southern apparently had a whole set of trains that were stacked up waiting to go through. Not even 5 minutes after 303 gets out, NS Train 270 comes by. 270 is a Chicago to Columbus, Ohio train. He normally runs north on the Chicago line, but today they send him this way over the nickel plate. You never know what to anticipate rail fanning Fostoria. NS13Q passes by only moments later. You can tell it's 13Q because he normally carries automobile frames on flat cars, and today is no different. A track geometry boxcar is placed just behind the engine at the head end of train I-169. You can tell it's a track geometry car given by the large "Do Not Hump" letters on the side of the car. And no, I did not intend to make that an 18-plus joke. As the sun dips lower in the western sky below the horizon, the parade of Norfolk Southern and CSX trains continues throughout the evening. It is westbound NS Train 15Q's turn to pass through town. Having originated in Bellevue, it is heading for the terminal at Decatur, Illinois. A pair of Union Pacific GEs lead this B7 something or other. I didn't get the train ID, but I do know it was crude oil loads off the Union Pacific heading for somewhere in New York. Westbound train I-009 is next to come through Fostoria. I-009 is the sister to the I-010 we saw earlier, and once again, a very hot train. At twilight's last gleaming, Norfolk Southern runs one more train for the rail fin before shooting light is just about gone. It is a train of all empty covered grain hoppers that I would assume would head down the Sandusky district after dark. Our final two shots will be of two trains coming out of Toledo taking the connection to go west on the Willard sub. The train is M511, coming south out of Detroit, heading for Cincinnati with manifest freight, and a gigantic one tonight, as it always is. The engineer seems to be having no problem with it, though, as she navigates her way around the connection. She will take the left turn at Deschler to continue the run south along the Toledo sub. Once there in Cincinnati, the over 200-car consist will be broken up and classified into other trains for destinations across the U.S. About 15 minutes later, here came train M201, Walbridge, Ohio to Chicago Manifest Freight, and the last M201 I would film. These scenes were shot on June 22nd. Sometime between then and now, M200 and M201 were abolished. By the time M201 cleared Fostoria, all favorable shooting light for my camera was gone. It was also 2200, and I had to head back south to Columbus. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything else. The reason for the delay in uploading this was because I needed a new computer to work with. now that I have one, more of these videos will be coming in the weeks. Until then, I'm signing off for the night. And as always, go Buckeyes.